Okay, so the cakes are finished and the Ladyfingers are finished as well. The cakes, they didn't take on a lot of color, but you could see they start to shrink away from the sides. A little bit of color on the edge, and when I touch it, it's firm and doesn't feel like wet batter, so I know it's done. When I look at, they're still hot, they just came out, but I'll show you if I look at can look at without yet moving the one out of the ring, you can see the color on the bottom, so I know it's cooked. Okay, then with the Ladyfingers, I think they took about 10 minutes. From the powdered sugar, they do take on a little bit of color, so a little bit of light brown, which is nice so they don't look so beige. And they're still hot, but again, a little bit of color on the bottom. And pretty dried out, okay? And that's kind of what you're looking, the sponge is a dry cake. There's no butter in it, no extra fat. And one of the reasons this works well for the tiramisu is that it is a dry cake, and so it can absorb the coffee liquid to soak it, okay? If it were a really moist cake, it wouldn't be able to suck in that extra liquid. So that's what you're looking for. Okay, so I'm just gonna let these cool. And then I'm gonna show you how we move on with the assembly of the tiramisu. Okay, so once your cakes are cooled, you're gonna wanna remove them from the pan to move on with the assembly of the tiramisu. I'm gonna use you could use a paring knife or a thin, any kind of knife, like a boning knife like this. Run it around the inside of the cake pan or cake ring to detach your sponge. And then the same thing in the cake pan. And then this should come right out. Okay, now I am not going to mix the tiramisu filling because I don't have the ingredients, but what I'm going to do is walk you through the steps of how you would do the assembly. So like I said, I'm gonna use this 8-inch cake ring. I do need to put a cardboard round under the cake to give it the support. So I don't have an 8-inch cardboard, so I'm going to do a quick trace and cut. And you're going to want your cardboard to fit either just inside your cake ring or right at the same diameter as it. But like I said, it's to give your cake support on the bottom, and then once you're done building your tiramisu, you'll have the support to hold your cake underneath. Okay, so there we go. So let me do this. I'm gonna cut it just a little bit more so it will fit right inside the cake ring. You don't want it to be a lot smaller though, because you might have your tiramisu filling leak out the bottom. Okay, nice and snug right in there, and that's my base. If you don't have the cake ring, a lot of people don't have that, you can also, what would work well is the springform pan, like you use for a cheesecake. I don't have the bottom on here because I've lost it, but if you used the springform pan with the base, you don't need the cardboard and the cake ring, okay? And then once you would build your cake inside the springform, and then once it's built and chilled, you would release the springform and you would have your cake with your base under it. Okay, so that works good too. We're gonna do it like this. So here I have my cardboard inside my cake ring. You want to peel your parchment off your sponge rounds. Don't forget that, otherwise you're gonna end up with the paper inside your cake. I can put it just like so. Okay, and that's gonna be the bottom layer of my tiramisu. Now, like I said, I don't have the filling, so we're not gonna continue on. But once I had my filling made and I had my coffee syrup or my coffee soaking liquid, at this point, this first layer of sponge would get soaked with the coffee. Then I would, using the offset spatula, I would spread the first layer of the tiramisu or the mascarpone filling. Then my second cake round, removed from the parchment, would go on. And I have not removing it from the parchment, but that would go on top of the first layer of filling. And then that would get soaked. Now your middle layer or your second layer of sponge can get soaked a little bit more because it's in the interior of the cake and you don't have to worry about it being certain it gives the support of the cake. But for your bottom layer, don't soak it quite as much. Okay, and then if you have the nice cake, this cake round like this, or if you're using the spring form to build your cake, after your second layer of sponge, then your top layer of mascarpone filling gets put on and you use your offset spatula and just level it out using the top of your cake ring or your spring form pan to get a nice level top. Okay, and then that would go in the refrigerator to cool until it's set. And I would say do that for at least a few hours. After it's set, you take it out, and at this point, you can easily remove your, I got this cardboard crammed in here a little tight, but you would be able to lift your cake ring right off your cake and you would have your tiramisu. Okay, now let me show you the Ladyfingers. They should be cool at this point. They release very easily off of the parchment. So you would get those all off. Now, like I said, I am just using these to decorate the outside of my tiramisu once I've built it. So essentially what I need are Ladyfingers. This is gonna be the height of my tiramisu. My Ladyfingers are like this. Oh, this actually worked out perfect. They're just a bit, you want them slightly taller than your tiramisu, but it's nice if they have a flat bottom because then they'll stick nicely just like that. So what I would do with these is you want them all to be about that height or that length, and I would just line them up and give them a little trim and have those all ready. And like I said, these are gonna ring around the outside of my cake. The tiramisu filling should work as glue to hold the Ladyfingers around the outside. If for some reason they're not sticking or adhering to the tiramisu filling, you could use a little bit of apricot preserves, which is a fairly mild flavor, and just with your offset spatula, put a little dab on there and stick it on the outside, and that will be your glue that will hold it on the outside. The other thing is if you had some buttercream on hand, same thing. Use that as a little bit of glue and stick those on the outside. And that's how you do the Ladyfingers and the sponge to build your tiramisu.